Hi there, my name is Matthew, and this interview is a part of SASAH's Alumni Outreach Project, where we reach out to our SASAH alumni and gain their expertise on what it's like to be a SASAH student and how this specific type of learning and engagement has functioned in either the world of work or in their graduate studies. Today, I'm joined with Rachael DiMenna from the graduating class of 2018. She holds a dual degree in Ivey and SASAH, and she's currently a consultant at Monitor Deloitte. Hi, Rachel, how are you?
Hey, Matthew, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, yeah, with quarantine and everything going on. It's just been a wild time, but we're hanging in there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I guess the first thing I kind of wanted to jump into was kind of your take on what SASAH is, because it's a very new program. Many people have never heard of it before, so they're kind of still looking to get answers on what exactly it is that we do in the program. So being a graduate, well, how would you describe SASAH?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was in the first cohort of SASAH, so my first year at university was the first year SASAH existed, so I have a lot of practice thinking about what SASAH is and trying to describe it to other people.
Yeah.
But I always start with, it's an interdisciplinary liberal arts program that really works to give students all the benefits of liberal arts learning. So all the critical thinking skills, the kind of diverse nature of that type of learning, but make sure it's translated both to other areas of study. So everyone in SASAH also studies something else. So how do you apply those liberal arts skills to your other fields of interest and study? And also how do you apply it to the real world? So SASAH has built in a lot of programs like internships, international studies, language studies, that make sure liberal arts students are not just getting an education for the sake of education, which is still important, but also how do they apply that education to the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my spiel on SASAH that I try to give.
Yeah, no, I think that was very good. That was very explanatory and compressed. I really liked that. And you kind of highlighted a lot of the benefits of SASAH, that being that we're getting like a different type of learning and it's also very practical. So I was wondering what specifically was like the major thing that attracted you to the SASAH program?
Mm-hmm. So I always knew I wanted to study the arts and humanities in addition to my business studies, which I would later pursue through Ivey. And what attracted me to the program was I knew I wanted to study arts and humanities. I had a real passion for things like English literature, storytelling, performing arts, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with that passion for the arts and humanities or how exactly I wanted to apply it. So what SASAH was really great at is giving me sort of a survey of everything the arts and humanities has to offer. So I got to study the things I was passionate about. I took a bunch of English literature courses. I took a bunch of theater courses, but I also took courses that I never would have perhaps chosen for myself or knew were even out there. So we took gender studies courses. We took, courses in postmodernism, courses in critical theory, so many cool things in the field of humanities academics that I didn't even know about, and I got exposure to. So that ability to have a really broad and very interdisciplinary education was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Even myself as a SASAH student, I feel like going into SASAH and kind of being able to learn so many different topics that you never thought you'd even touch on or didn't even know existed is definitely one of the benefits, because I think they also come up in various different conversations in different ways, and just so useful to kind of have that very broad type of knowledge.
Yeah, and it sticks with you. To this day, I can still think about studies like critical theories that I learned in my second year of university that are still relevant to my life and to my work.
Absolutely great. Also, you mentioned kind of that you wanted to study kind of arts and liberal arts, and you also wanted to do business at Ivey. That's a very unique path, I feel like. I was wondering if you could better explain that kind of journey and how you kind of satisfied those two kind of different educational pathways.
Yeah. So I'll start with what I ended up doing, and then I'll talk a bit about why I chose to do it.
Yeah, sure.
So as you mentioned at the beginning, I did the dual degree program that is offered at Western through Ivey School of Business. So through Ivey, I have an honors business administration is the name of the degree, HBA.
Yeah.
And then through Western, I have a degree in the humanities with a double major in SASAH and in English literature.
Okay.
So I was in 3 programs total. It took me 5 years.
Wow.
And I guess I was the first, since I was in my first year of the SASAH cohort, I was the first person to pursue that degree. I know there's been a bunch of people after me who've done it as well. But it was challenging at times because I had to sort of pave a new path. But the reason I did it was I was really passionate about finishing my humanities degree, first of all, because you do it in your first 2 years and then you go to Ivey and then you get to decide if you want to finish it. So I was really passionate about finishing my humanities degree and finishing the SASAH program because I really loved it and found I got a lot out of the classes and the curriculum. And the other reason is I always wanted to do sort of business in the arts because I had a passion for the arts, but I wasn't necessarily like a creative type, still not. Like I'm not the type to, I wish I was, be able to like write a play or I don't know, write songs. Like that's not really within my skill set, but what is within my skill set is more of like kind of the business side of things. So strategic thinking, organizational skills, like kind of entrepreneurial mindset, like those sorts of things are a little bit more natural to me, but I really wanted to bring my passion for the arts into that. So that was the reason I set out to do the dual degree, kind of study what I'm passionate about, learn more about the arts and humanities space, and then get sort of some of the skills and to develop some of my skills I already had from the business degree. So that's how those two sort of fit together for me.
Wow, that's definitely an interesting take. I was also wondering how did you balance between Ivey and SASAH? Because if I'm not mistaken, you do like different things at different years. So I'll explain that a little bit better for us.
Yeah. I'll talk a little bit about the detail of the program structure, just in case there's anyone watching who's interested in doing it. And then I can talk a bit about how I actually experienced it.
Yeah, for sure.
So the structure of the program is you do 2 years of whatever your degree at Western is. So for many of you watching, it would be a SASAH degree with perhaps another arts major. I did English literature. So you do that for 2 years. You get accepted into the HBA program after your second year. And then in your third year, you do the full first year of the HBA Ivey program. So you spend the whole year in Ivey. You can't take any Western courses. And then in that year, you can decide if you want to do the dual degree. So I decided I wanted to do the dual degree. And in your fourth and fifth year, you take a combination of 2. So I took like, out of my 5 or 6 courses that I had each year, I took, 2.5 credits in Ivey and 2.5 credits in the humanities. That mix is kind of up to you. But that's how the program structure works. How I ended up experiencing it, as you say, they're really different. The courses are really different. The kind of program cultures are really different. So it was really a cool experience for me because doing my third year in Ivey was basically like starting a new school. It was kind of like immersing myself in a different world, getting exposed to a lot of different people, different professors, different ways of thinking, different types of learning. And then when I went back and did both at the same time, when I was taking both arts courses and Ivey courses at the same time, it was really cool to sort of compare and contrast the ways of thinking in those classrooms. And both classrooms through the SASAH program and through Ivey are very interactive. So students drive a lot of the class discussion and drive a lot of the learning. And so it was really fascinating to see, if the professor asks a question about what is business's role in society, the answers you get in an Ivey classroom versus a humanities classroom are really, really different. And it was kind of cool to enrich my own perspective with both of those sort of ways of thinking and kind of bring my own unique combined perspective, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot. I'm glad that you kind of pursued that because, as I said, it's really interesting to kind of see how those two kind of fields kind of merge. So I was also wondering, what do you think are some crucial skills that you've learned in SASAH that has translated really well, not just to Ivey, but also to your role as a consultant at Monitor Deloitte?
A lot. So I'll start by saying I found my humanities degree I know I've talked about it as like, oh, I was passionate about it, I thought it was cool. Not just that, I found it really, really useful in terms of the skills it brought to my life, to my way of getting through school, as well as now to my career. So I think the top ones I always kind of think about, like the first one would be critical thinking. The way that you're challenged in a humanities degree, especially in SASAH, to sit down and say, okay, I read this book, or I read this essay, or I've heard from the professor, so what does that mean? And not only do you have to think a little bit more deeply about what you observe and what you read, oftentimes in your essays and your projects, you have to add sort of like a net new insight into the world, right? You have to really, really work and stretch your thinking to kind of come up with something new to say. And that skill is really, really hard to just pick up quickly. It takes years to develop that skill. It took me 5 years in school, and I'm still developing that skill. So that's the biggest one. Being able to go into now like a conference room with, you know, my seniors, so people at Monitor Deloitte who have been working there for 15 years, as well as the CEO of my client company, and being able to bring something new to the table and say, oh, I actually thought about this differently, or that's hugely, hugely helpful and takes a really long time to develop. And it takes a program like SASAH to help you develop it. So that's the first one. And then the others kind of, again, like skills that take years to develop, being able to read and write and communicate effectively, being able to think creatively. So, you know, being able to think outside the box. The number of times I got an assignment in SASAH and it was just like, do something. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. And it's really up to you to think like, oh, I could write a 5-page essay, or I could do this really creative multimedia presentation, you know, like things like that. Just being able to think creatively is also hugely helpful. Those are the big ones I would highlight.
Yeah, for sure. I think those SASAH like projects where they're like, do something is very popular, but as you said, it really helps us to kind of think outside of the box, right? It really helps us to kind of engage not only with our own passions, but engage better with the course material and what we're learning, and try to bring that to life in the best way. So
for sure,
that kind of translates really well to your job. Really good stuff. I was also wondering, okay, so SASAH is a pretty small program, and we all know each other really well. And Ivey is the opposite. So I was wondering, how exactly did your experiences with students differ from Ivey and SASAH, and do you feel like you were a true member of like both schools? Like, what was that whole experience like in terms of being a participant?
Yeah, good question. I find that I was really, really lucky in my university experience that the two kind of main programs I chose to do, SASAH and Ivey, both really value and promote and create a sense of like a tight culture and tight community. So SASAH, as you mentioned, is obviously a very small program. There's probably at any given time in Western, like 100 SASAH students across all the years. So with that, you really get to know everyone well. I knew the people in my cohort in my year, as well as the year below me, since I kind of took the year out to go to Ivey and then came back. So I knew both of those years really, really well. And it was a really valuable experience for me to be comfortable around those people. You know, by our 3rd and 4th and 5th year, it was so easy for us to sit in a classroom and kind of really passionately and really transparently debate our perspectives and ideas, because we were really comfortable with each other, and we all knew, you know, even when we differ, we can have a constructive conversation. So SASAH is really great at promoting that type of culture. And, you know, you also meet people with similar passions and interests to you. So to this day, if I have a really good friend from SASAH, if we want to edit something, we always like contact each other and ask for help with editing, because we really trust each other to do that. So SASAH has a really great community in that way. Ivey is different but similar, actually. Although it's bigger, they have a lot of structures in place to create a strong community. So having your 3rd year where you just are in the Ivey building and you don't get to take any other classes sounds kind of strict, I guess, but at the end of the day, it's all about developing that community and getting to know your classmates. So I had a section in Ivey. My section was about 70 people. And I knew everyone in that section. We took all our classes together in third year. I knew everyone in that section really, really well. And it's kind of a similar thing to SASAH, where you really learn to like trust those people and be able to speak openly with them, and be able to share with them. And then the next part of your question was, did I feel like I kind of had a real place in both communities?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think so. I think, again, I was lucky in that both groups, although different, value community, like I said. And because of that, I never felt like because I was in another program at the same time that I was less part of that community. When I came back to SASAH, it was kind of like no time had passed, like picked right back up in the classroom, and it was kind of easy to get kind of re-acclimatize myself. So no, I think I was lucky in that I got 2 really great community experiences at university.
That's great. I'm really happy to hear that. And kind of on the topic of community experiences, we know that SASAH values that, as you said before. And for me, that's one of the things that I love about SASAH. When I think about my favorite memories about SASAH, it all comes back to the community, either that being on our living and learning community floor in Ontario Hall, and just having like those experiences with everyone. So I was just wondering, like, throughout your SASAH whole experience, what has been your favorite memory as a SASAH student?
There was one day, it was actually all the way back in our first year, I think. SASAH likes to do, for those who haven't experienced it yet or aren't in the program yet, SASAH likes to do these field trips, which is very like high school, I guess, but it's nice that we still get to do it in university. So there's a few times actually with the SASAH group that we would go to Toronto or go to Stratford as a group and do different sort of like immersive learning activities. And so one time in our first year, we all got on a bus and went to the ROM. And it was for, I believe it was our classical studies portion of the course. So we spent a few months on classical studies in our first year. And we went to the ROM, we all got on a bus, and they kind of like set us loose in Toronto for, I think, the morning, and we were all kind of wandering around. So I'm from Toronto, so I knew the area fairly well. Some people had never been to Toronto before, so it was a really fun kind of bonding experience, first of all. And then when we actually went to the museum, our professor is obviously one of kind of the leading experts in Canada on classical studies. And so she got to give us sort of a private tour of the museum and its collections. So not only did we go through the main parts of the museum, but we went to sort of like the back rooms where they keep all the stuff they're not showing to the public. And they brought out a bunch of artifacts that we could like feel and touch and play with and really learn the history behind. So that day sticks out in my mind, one, because it was just a fun thing to spend the whole day with my cohort and get to do something cool together. And two, I think it really illustrates one of the unique learning experiences that you can get with SASAH, being so close to your professors and being so close to sort of the access they have to applying their studies to the real world.
Yeah, no, for sure. I 100% agree. I remember in my first year, which is last year, but we had a kind of community engagement project where we went to the Windermere kind of home for elderly, and that was so much fun. It's so like, it's so small, but you don't realize how much kind of going outside and having like a different kind of activity when it comes to academics helps to just build you as a character, as a person, and just strengthen your relationships with your cohort, because we got to go outside, we got to put a project on anything that we wanted and share with the elderly, and they were fun and hilarious. So I mean, it's just these kind of small moments that I think really make SASAH special, you know.
For sure.
To kind of wind down, kind of like my final question for you, I guess, is to any current or possibly even future SASAH students that are watching this right now, what's like any one piece of advice that you'd have to give?
Yeah. I think students struggle a lot to say, okay, I'm getting this university degree, I'm paying for it, or I chose this program, or whatever it might be. What's the return I'm getting out of it? It's like, how am I going to get a job? What's that job going to be? How am I going to apply, you know, everything I'm learning day to day to that job? And I would say, yes, that's important, but it's not the only goal of your education, especially of sort of a liberal arts humanities education. There's so much more that you're getting out of a program like this that you can't realize yet. So yeah, like I don't quote English literature day to day in my job. I don't necessarily bring my learnings from my gender studies class every day in my job, but I came out of that program, you know, with all those skills I mentioned before that are helpful to apply to my job. And I also came into that program just a much more enriched, educated, thoughtful person, right? I mean, there's so much going on right now in 2020, and to be able to be a productive member of those conversations and be able to understand kind of the discourse around whatever political, social, healthcare issues are happening in our world right now, humanities education lets you do that so well. And it's, again, it's one of those things that you can't pick up overnight. You can't all of a sudden become better at understanding these like deep-rooted issues. It's something that I developed over years through the SASAH program, through learning from my professors, through reading all these different materials, through immersing myself in a class of people who all had different perspectives and different backgrounds. So in short, the piece of advice I would give is you're getting so much out of this program. It's going to be useful to your professional life for sure, but it's also just going to be really important for your personal growth and development as a human. So don't take that for granted, I guess.
Yeah, well, thank you. On that note, I think I should just really thank you for just taking the time to talk with me today. I think you're kind of very unique experience being a part of Ivey and being a part of SASAH and kind of navigating those two worlds. It's very, very interesting. I think a lot of SASAH students can really learn a lot from you. So thank you so much for speaking with me today. I'm sure SASAH students will find it extremely valuable.
Yeah, of course. Happy to help and happy to speak further to any students who are interested in the path I took and want more insight.
Okay, so if they want to probably reach out to you, how best do they do that?
LinkedIn works. So I guess my name will be in the video description or something. So if you find me on LinkedIn, that's probably the easiest way. If you get my email through an alumni database, I'll answer that as well.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so thank you again, Rachel. It's been great speaking with you. And yeah, thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Matthew.